I want you to listen to this, and I want you to listen closely. Do you want to know what the quintessential way to introduce a character in your story is? Well, look no further than Yakuza 4. It starts with an establishing shot, introducing a company named Sukai Finanzu, in English, Sky Finance. Take note of that for later. Soon after that, the audience is introduced to the interior of the building. This shot right here is the first thing we see. In the shot, we see office clutter, with papers, books, and files in a disorganized manner. Immediately before the character even appears on screen, we can make assumptions about him and his personality. Those whose personal spaces are messy and cluttered are often assumed to be lazy and undisciplined, with a lackadaisical attitude. Why? Because they don't know how to keep their personal spaces tidy, and that probably makes it hard for them to focus or work efficiently, but that doesn't bother them because they're just that, carefree. Given the fact that they're undisciplined, they probably have a spontaneous approach to how they solve problems. Think about the type of person to remember that they have a project to submit in about a day's time, despite having the project assigned a month ago. That's one assumption we can make about this character. So I just inferred all of that just from one shot, but the scene doesn't stop there. It continues with a tracking shot of the clutter, then a close-up shot of the clutter, then another close-up shot of a bunch of cigarettes on top of each other. The close-up shot of the cigarettes is pretty self-explanatory, but I want to note that it just further affirms the assumptions I made about the character because some of those traits are often associated with smokers. It's also perceived as cool to smoke cigarettes, or, well, at least it used to be cool. And that's why he's so carefree? Because of the cigarettes? Then finally, the camera zooms out, and we get a full body shot of the character lying down on his backside reading a magazine. Everything that transpires in this scene after this shot proves every assumption we've made up until this point about the character. He starts trying to nap, but then his phone rings, he ignores it, then it stops, and then it starts ringing again, and that's when he finally answers it. Need I say more? We don't even know what his name is, assuming this is our first time playing this game. And already we know a lot about this character's personality and a core part of who they are. And that right there was how the fourth game in the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series introduced the first new playable character in the series, Akiyama. And that was honestly amazing. It's a simple yet so effective introduction to the character, and so much is told through just visuals and interior space. It's an excellent use of the rule, show, don't tell. There are multiple ways to introduce a character. You could introduce your character in the middle of an action scene, showcasing their abilities and the fact that they're a badass. That is, if they're a badass. You could introduce your character in the middle of their daily routine. You could introduce a character while they're sleeping. You got the point. How good an introduction is can also depend on the context of which it's being executed. For example, Goro Majima is a character in the Yakuza series who has appeared in every mainline game in the series. He's also probably the most iconic and popular character in the series. Despite that, he's only ever been playable in one game, and before that game even released, his appearances were very brief and sparse. In every game before Yakuza 0, you'd watch the few cutscenes with him in it, and as soon as they would end, you'd just be left wanting more. His backstory was also pretty much unknown. Given all these facts, fans were clamoring for him to finally be playable and have a fleshed out story. Anticipation. The feeling of anticipation. That exciting, heart-pounding sensation. Akin to those times in the past where you couldn't sleep on Christmas Eve because you were just so damn excited to open your presents the next day. That's the feeling of anticipation. Knowing that the audience feels this way, the writer and director have to utilize build-up. Because anticipation is the destination. But you don't get to the destination without the journey. And that journey has to be very captivating in some way for the destination to be climactic. After you finish Kazuma Kiryu's second chapter, you land on Chapter 3's title card screen. Now, the localized English name of Chapter 3, which is Gilded Cage, in my honest opinion, doesn't effectively encapsulate the themes and messaging communicated in this introduction and in the story told in this chapter. Translated directly from Japanese without localization to make it sound less awkward in English, the title is A Shining Prison. Now take note of that because it's the first hint that Majima's story is going to be very different than what you expect from the character. The chapter starts with a bunch of establishing shots of the city Sotenbori, Osaka, with the last establishing shot being of a building called the Cabaret Grand. Using the fade transition, we find ourselves in the interior of the club with every single shot showcasing its opulently glamorous locale. There's a jazz band playing, well, jazz music to set the mood. You see some classic bourgeoisie debauchery drowning themselves in alcohol and getting touchy with the hostess girls. All of this to establish that this club is very popular among a certain crowd, and extremely expensive, for a very good reason. The minor character we're introduced to, a businessman from Tokyo, is the oblivious third-person perspective that is used as a vehicle for the audience to learn about this club and who owns it. After being chaperoned by, well, the chaperone, we see these two characters talking about an elusive him. This him owns the club apparently, and he's been poaching the best hostess girls from rival clubs. He also apparently turned the club into the sensation that it is right now in a very short period of time. He's quite the businessman, says the bystander. Now, if this isn't your first Yakuza game, you know exactly who this he is, and you're just waiting for him to appear on screen. Not to mention that your curiosity might be piqued, because why in the fuck does Majima, the mad dog of Shimano, own a cabaret club? Or maybe this he is someone else. Who knows? We have to keep watching the scene to find out. Oh, and here it is. We hear someone shouting downstairs, but then... The businessman starts panicking. The chaperone is pretty confident that he will handle it. The music stops, leaving the whole room in silence. And then, here it comes. We hear walking. Ground level shot of his black shoes, and given the nature of the cinematography, we can't see his face or body, which further heightens the tension and anticipation on just this 3-second shot alone. Then we see a tracking shot following the character's back. Still can't see his face, but then the long shot allows us to see his whole body. We get another ground level shot of his shoes. Then from the left to the right, we get 2 over-the-shoulder shots back to back, where we can only see his side profile, and then finally the camera starts from his shoes and tilts upwards to reveal his face. This is a close-up shot of Majima Goro.
Hmm? 本日はお越しいただきありがとうございます。何やお前、ケツ持ちちゃうんか。よく間違われます。ですが違います。せやったら何やねん悪い。申し遅れました。私当店支配人の Majima と申します。
お前が支配人やと？
え？あれが例の？
この店はヤクザが仕切っとんのかい？
お見苦しくて申し訳ございません。こう見えても堅気です。それよりもお客様、恐れ入りますが、当店でのお触りや暴力行為はどうかご遠慮願います。
気に食わんちゅうんやったら力ずくで来てみろや。その面こき落としけ。
そういうわけには参りません。お客様は神様ですから。
ほう、そらええ心がけやないか。お前さんのその心構え気に入ったわ。
Now, with all of that out of the way, we finally get to see the Mad Dog of Shimano beat the shit out of this douche, right? Wait, why isn't he beating him up? This douche just disrespected the hell out of Majima. I want to see fists touching bodies.
どうや、神様からのお恵みは？
ありがとうございます。私はこの酒を一度浴びるように飲んでみたかったのですが、おかげさまで夢が叶いました。
こんな野郎。どけよや。
So Majima still hasn't beat the shit out of this dude. What the fuck is going on? Says the audience proudly. So, you know that feeling of anticipation and tension that I was talking about earlier? Well, going back to that close-up shot of Majima, that isn't even the destination, or, for lack of a better word, climax. And the cinematography after this shot kind of heightens our feelings of anticipation and tension. Still at this point, close-ups. Extreme close-ups, over-the-shoulder shots, a low angle from the perspective of Majima's hand after the douche pours champagne on his face. Yet, Majima hasn't put a hand on this dude. When the douche tries to hit him with the champagne bottle, he just dodges his swings. And that kind of solidifies to the audience that this isn't going to be your typical bastard starts a fight in a club, so the protagonist's gotta beat him up, right? Which is kind of an overused scenario in Yakuza when you really think about it.
したらなんやっちゅうねん。
しゃあないのう。ああ、一丁景気のやれや。そこまでお客様がお望みなら、この真島、僭越ながらお相手いたしましょう。ただし、私からは一切手出しはいたしません。何しろ、お客様は神様ですから。
まだそんなこと抜かすか。なめおって。
さあ、ショータイムや。
I mean, where do I even start? He commands the jazz band to start playing music, and you, the audience member, is just like, what the fuck is about to happen? And then the cutscene perfectly transitions into gameplay, where you can't engage in combat, so you're basically dancing with the douche, dodging every one of his attacks. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, is one hell of a way to introduce or actually reintroduce a character that a good portion of the audience is familiar with already. But clearly, who we're familiar with isn't this character. Not yet, at least. And that's what makes this introduction so effective. The highly effective use of build-up, making the pacing of the scene very exhilarating, the visual storytelling, the subversion, it's almost perfect. If you haven't gotten the message yet, the writers behind the Yakuza Like a Dragon series really know how to execute a character introduction well. The writing in that department is just off the charts, and despite how convoluted these stories can get, they never fumble their character introductions because the examples in this video aren't the only examples of flawless character introductions in this series. The list always goes on. So, we've analyzed multiple character introductions in this series. And that's not the only thing I have to say about it. I have many other things to say about how good and bad this series is at handling certain topics and aspects surrounding media and art. We'll get to the bad the next time we talk about this very entertaining and captivating series. Stay tuned.